amazingly now so far today, and of course you've heard what we've had to say about it, but now we've got to hear from Mash, who's with Riv.
Thank you very much, Freak and Jat. That's right, I am joined by Mash with Impulse after their victory. I gotta ask you, man, it's been a while since we did an interview. How's it feel to be back on the LCS stage?
Feels great, Griff. Thank you for asking.
Second question, looking at the dynamic of everything and changes in the team, Gate can go from mid to bottom, shot calling, just in general. How is Impulse working this season? What's the team dynamic?
For now, like with our subs, for this game, Seraph and me shot called the game. But I think later on in the future, it's going to be me and Proxen for, being leaders for this team.
And you guys discuss a lot after every game? You kind of go back, figure out what went wrong, and then fix it?
Yeah, we always discuss our problems after the game, never during the game because that's really bad. But we don't take our losses too harshly because week 1 was a sub week for us.
Right on. And actually, to go back to week 1, final question for you: the loss, the 18-minute hit. Yeah. What were you guys thinking, and how did you bounce back? Because it was a completely different team today.
For week 1, we didn't come into it we're gonna go 2-0. We're just gonna play our absolute best. We lose, we lose, we win, we win. So it's good to have a laid-back personality for this type of week.
All right, Mash, great to have you back on the stage. Best of luck in the rest of the season to you and the team. We're gonna throw it over to the Analyst desk to break down that game some more.
Thank you very much, Rivington. A much-needed victory there for TIP early on in the season, getting a little confidence under their belts, and to do it with a makeshift roster. And so that's where I kind of want to, let's just jump into this thing because we've got guys playing out of position, guys who were just brought in very recently onto the team. Looking at Champions Select, though, I feel like they had a very smart approach, which was to leave themselves options, starting with that Lulu Flex pick first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I didn't really like C9's draft, and I think they didn't get many priority things relative to Tip. Tip got Lissandra, they got Lulu, they got Lucian. Kalista was pretty good, but Tip has a lot of strong champions, and there's champions that they play well. Seraph has a good Lissandra, Gate has a good Lulu, and it didn't feel like C9 got enough advantages out of the draft.
Yeah, C9 didn't walk away with really anything I would consider a power pick right now, and then their composition as a whole, you can think it makes sense where they're going to split push and have one person, just Shen, try and do that, but he's not really a large split pushing threat, whereas Lissandra can just TP and get to your backline, and there's a lot of backline to blow up here. Everybody on this team besides the Shen is going to be rather squishy, so I guess the Trundle as well, but you don't have much wave clear either.
I was about to say, distinct lack of wave clear.
As soon as this team gets a Baron on TIP's side, the game's pretty much over for you. You're going to lose a lot of objectives off of that, and they have split push pressure too. And I think that you were talking about it, Lissandra for Seraph is the pick to have this guy on.
Yeah, let's break him down a little bit. Seraph, has had a decent amount of LCS experience in the past, and somewhat of a roller coaster of a career in terms of at times we're saying, hey, this guy can totally hard carry a game. We've seen it. Other times struggling to keep up in CS with his lane opponent. This game, though, was the Seraph show. I mean, he showed up by all means and carried this team to victory.
Yeah, I think he was kind of given a good opportunity to do it. When Rush got really aggressive in Tip's jungle, they lost their globals, and as soon as that happened, if you watch the map, they started pinging bot lane and all these different wards they can set up for a TP flank. It's hard to know who was calling it. I'd imagine it was Seraph being like, hey, I see a ward here, get me one here, let's dive bottom. And that's really how they won the game, was just off Seraph's crazy good TP flanks.
Yeah, Seraph back in the Challenger Series when TDK was qualifying, he had games where they're behind and he's winning them by himself, and a lot of them are off of TP plays. So Seraph is very vocal now. When he first came over, his TPs were not very good when he was on CLG, and he's improved drastically, and now he's taking the reins himself, so he's setting up his own plays. And I think this is really good for this player, and even if he doesn't end up as a permanent member on TIP, he's still going to be on TDK in the Challenger Series, and I think that this guy has a lot of potential to show that he's LCS quality, because he's doing it today.
Now let's take a look at one of the TPs, one of the many successful TPs out of Seraph in this game. This one really blowing the game open, 35 minutes in. One of the things that helped close the game out. Zyrene, I'm going to let you walk us through this.
Yeah, this is pretty much a classic Seraph, let's end the game, get to the backline Lissandra play. He's pinging the ward so many times before he does it. He's saying, I'm coming in, and he immediately flash W so they don't have a chance to react, and then he ulties a primary target. He does get locked up, but that's all you need at that point. Lissandra has come back into the meta mostly because of double AD compositions and all of these squishies that people are running, that you're able to have access to that backline via a good flank, and you pretty much end the game off of that play with the hard CC.
Right, and so Mark, as a coach, someone who would maybe be responsible for putting one of these team compositions together, we then look at what Zyrene mentioned earlier, the fact that there are so many backline threats that Lissandra can get onto easily, and yet they still seemingly built to support those ADCs. I mean, we had the early Mercurial Scimitars or the QSSs come in, as well as the Shen Ultimate. Still not enough, though, to deal with the amount of burst damage coming out of TIP.
This felt more to me like a game where C9 was drafting for themselves and not like, the Lissandra's a late pick, so it's a little harder to play around, but it felt more like they had a comp in mind that they wanted to run and less about what's the other team doing and reacting to that. Like, Kalista's just a strong pick. Nidalee is Rush's champ. Shen, Trundle is a flex. Bunny had a pretty good Shen last season, so I think it felt like a lot of stuff that they were just picking for themselves and not really going into what Tip was doing.
One final thing, I do want to get into the difference between Hai and Bunny Fufu a little bit. We saw Jat talking about it there at the end, that Cloud9, they just don't look like they have the direction or the confidence that they need. Everything's operating a half second behind schedule, it seems, when we watch them rotate in these games.
Yeah, I know him as a shot caller. He's very micromanaging. He'll tell you how to approach as a jungler, how to get to the lane, and what the combo is going to be, right? He'll be like, you pillar, then I spear. So he'll tell you how to set up the gank and all of these things. And I think the biggest difference between Bunny and Hai right now is how you see Rush moving on the map and how you see Balls using his globals, because they're very different. You go watch the games in contrast to each other. Hai is pretty much keeping track of the abilities for them and telling Rush how to enter the lane and what he needs to be doing. So micromanaging the players, I think, is the big problem.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly how the communication flows on a team if you're not in there listening to the voice comms, but Rush clearly wants to play aggressively, and he got like the first red. He was in his jungle like the whole first 5 minutes. It was super annoying. And then when he goes for the next red invade, it's not as clean. They blow the Shen ult, but Bunny's not there. The Lulu's moving faster. It just looks like he got caught out and was just too ahead of himself.
All right, so the micromanagement becomes a little bit too much maybe for Bunny Fufu, but luckily he does have Hai on the team to help direct him and guide his improvement. We're going to step away while we reset the rift for our next match between TSM and the new hotness, Immortals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of the North American LCS Spring Split right after this.
Who opens up week 2 properly here? Team Impulse on blue, Cloud9 on red. Here we go.
Jansen didn't see that.
Sin gets ulted. He's gonna die for sure. Seraph gets the kill, and this could be so dangerous. He's trying to run, but he will be killed. 2 more for Impulse.
Run. Close.
Nice. I saw him. I'm speeding. Nice. You got that? I'm going by. You got to push. Keep going. Bear.
Bunny gonna get found, and here comes Seraph from the backside. Oh, and so much disrupt. They've already picked up 2. Impulse take down Cloud9, only giving up 5 kills.